Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, Brian Robinson.
Hello, welcome again to podcast number 203. Once again, without our usual host, John Davis. We'll try to make it through here without him. I'll try to make it through without... what is it that I suck my teeth too much?
You suck your teeth too much.
I'm going to try to avoid doing that at all costs today. And
we'll ding the bell every time you do.
That was, of course, the voice of our online content coordinator, Greg Carlos.
Not sucking my teeth.
And also joining me is our video producer, editor, Joe Ligo.
Glad to be here.
And extra special guest this week, folks. I hope you are happy to hear that Dave Scrivener, our executive producer and head writer, joining us this week.
A rare appearance, and don't blink, you might miss it.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you, Dave. Glad to have everyone here.
Always happy to be here, Brian.
Well, the reason you're here is because you just got back from the New York International Auto Show.
Yes, I did.
Not to be confused with the New York
National
Auto Show, right. So tell us what was the big news in New York this year?
The biggest news in New York was probably a pretty plain Jane Subaru Outback, I thought.
They made a big deal about it.
People like Subarus, and they're buying them. But
I was there, and they had it come out of like a geyser. They had steam. They recreated like a national park on the auto show floor. So they had like log cabins and fake trees and
well, they
carpet.
have a partnership with National Parks, don't they, I think?
Yes, yeah.
Publicizing that as well.
So they chopped down trees and brought them inside?
Yes. to celebrate nature, they chopped down trees and brought them inside and had a fake geyser go
Is there
on.
anything vastly different about it than every other Outback?
I think there's two. There's a more sedate version with the trim, less audacious than before, maybe.
Right, and like the Forester has a sporty kind of, cool-looking version now, too.
The Sport.
But
right.
The return of turbo power, four-cylinder, right?
Yes.
As an option? Or
Yes.
is it the only engine?
I think it's an option.
Yeah, and it says there's no flat six, which the 12 people that bought them will be sad about that.
Downsizing.
Yeah.
It's amazing that, with all the Foresters and Crosstreks that they're selling, that they still even make the Outback. But like you said, people love them.
They do.
You were also there, Joe.
Yes. I attended the day before the auto show. I attended the press release of the Lincoln Corsair SUV, which replaces the Lincoln MKC as they continue naming their new vehicles after sort of boats and airplane type stuff.
You're swashbuckling.
Yeah. It definitely is like every other Lincoln product that's come out in the last 2-3 years. It's a big step over the thing it replaces. They're trying more than ever to distance themselves from the Ford roots. This thing's based on the Escape, but
It shares a lot with the Escape, right? Which is also all new.
yes, and the new Escape was at the auto show too. But powertrains, there's some different options with the Lincoln. You can get a 2.3-liter turbo engine that you can't get in the Escape. The Lincoln doesn't have a plug-in hybrid variant yet, but it probably will. Different things. Like Lincoln debuted their phone as a key. They were really proud about that. So, I know we're somewhat
I really miss keys.
Yeah, we're unenthusiastic about that, but they loved it. But no, the one thing that stuck out to me is they do not offer a black label version of it. I talked to their head designer, David Woodhouse, and to their president, Joy Filotico, and she said that
Joe, name dropping.
They actually let you talk to them?
Yeah, I know. I was kind of amazed. Well, I want to just say I'm not making this up. I actually asked him about it because it stood out to me that it was odd. And they said the take rate for Black Label on stuff like the Navigator is really high, where when you're going to spend $90,000, an extra $5-6 is no big deal. But on a car like this, you have first-time buyers. Research showed they don't really opt for the special trim levels and stuff. Yeah. So
the question you wanted to ask them, though, was,
will they offer a Bill Blass version? and I did ask that, and they said no.
All right.
Darn.
And stop asking me.
Yeah.
Stop asking me questions.
Yes, and then they said, please never come back.
How about what else? Something from Toyota here? Is that what I see?
the Highlander got a fair amount of play, I thought, for its new styling. The Yaris was also there as a 5-door. It was kind of just on the floor. Here it is. No one said anything about it.
Yeah, there were a couple new
Very
products.
dimly lit.
There were a couple new products where they didn't have, like the new GMC Acadia, no fanfare.
It was in the basement, and there was two of them, and it's like, yep, it's here. Is that the new one? Yep, it's the new one. Okay, well.
Yeah, it was odd.
Where's the sign, at least? It says, I'm new.
Mm. Yeah. The CT5 was new, but all of it was like drummed up on the internet weeks before the show.
Right. So people land these things at the auto show. I was like, well, I've already seen it all over the internet for a week. Why bother
looking at it here, right?
Yeah. That replaces both the ATS and CTS in their lineup.
Have they officially started the new naming scheme where they add the torque number?
I've not seen that.
Is that why
yet.
5 is the? No.
Yeah, but no. Their news a couple of weeks ago was like going to be they're going to call their car CT5 400 or something like that
it's
because
torque in Newton meters,
right, of electrification, and they think it represents the car better than other numbers do, horsepower.
The Jag XE had P250 and P300 after their names. I don't know what they signify either.
They've had those for a while. Yeah. What is the Hyundai Venue?
It is I think it's their version of the, it's smaller than the Kona.
Yeah, which the Kona's already small.
It's tiny.
It's a tiny little
just a suitcase
suitcase crossover.
And they didn't even have it. When we were looking for
why are we talking about it?
Well, because it was all new, and they took it over to Live with Kelly and Ryan.
Yeah, we couldn't shoot it.
We showed up and we're like, where is it? And it's like, well,
they have 7 million viewers. We took it over there. Yeah.
They only had one vehicle there?
I know.
One vehicle.
But the new Sonata did get a lot of attention, too. That was actually
quite an attractive car.
Really good-looking car. Some neat LED work on that I really thought will look cool.
The design elements of that with the,
I think they probably listened to a lot of people in that one. I remember when the previous Sonata came out, which I thought actually looked pretty decent. It was obvious they went like more mainstream, but now it looks like they're going back to the edgy styling.
More styling. Yeah.
Some really cool stuff.
Let's see. Stinger had a GTS version, the Kia folks.
What does that do?
What's S about it?
I think it's just more accoutrements on it.
Is it just looks? It's no more power?
I think it's just looks.
Track-oriented.
Just so they can say they have a GTS.
Bigger wheels, probably.
I don't think they had more power to it, but I could be wrong.
But they also had
Stay tuned for that one, folks.
Kia Habanero, which was
I love it.
A really hot concept car. Yeah. But that
was a small crossover as well. Electric?
Right, yeah, all electric, weird, butterfly doors and, red velvet interior and all kinds of that thing got a ton of attention. People were crowded around it, but I don't.
The Genesis Mint also, because when you open the door, like the steering wheel slid your way and the seat moved to greet you or something.
Did you think the Genesis Mint had a lot of Tesla Model 3 in the front end of it?
If you say so.
Kind of had a grillless thing going on there because it's an EV concept vehicle, and the color was really cool. That sort of minty green obviously worked, but the front end styling at least looked kind of Tesla Model 3 to me.
Yeah. Another concept that was there that wasn't really a concept, it was more like a trip to the Yakima factory, was the Atlas Base Camp concept from Volkswagen, outfitted for rugged off-road adventures, with the roof rack and all this stuff.
Because that's what Atlas aspires to.
That's what I aspired to.
They did have, it's not new, but there was a VW Dune concept, or
the
ID
buggy from Geneva.
Right, so that's not new, but it was really cool to see.
It's new to the U.S., so most of our viewers haven't seen it yet, and certainly people who have been to the auto show haven't seen it yet.
They should definitely build that.
Oh, I would love that. I attended the Nissan 370Z and GTR 50th Anniversary Edition press release the day before the show.
AKA party.
Yeah, I mean, they're new paint jobs.
Really working hard for the family there.
Doing my part.
Come on, let's go.
I'm doing I was there with all the social media influencers and, hobnobbers, but it was... it's interesting. All I want to know is when are they going to come out with an actual new Z and GTR?
No answers?
No answers.
Yeah. The Acura TLX PMC edition, they also had an MDX PMC edition, which is hand-assembled in their factory. It's, I don't know what
the PMC is their performance manufacturing center in Ohio, where the NSX is built.
Using it
so they're
on the TLX and a MDX.
I think it's
they
the
had
MDX.
a prototype
I think
for the
that's
MDX.
a typo.
There's two vehicles there. They had one production, one prototype.
Interesting.
So they hand build an MDX. Why did they do that?
Right, yeah. It says,
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, so the TLX and MDX both get PMC editions, and they're hand-assembled at Honda's Performance Manufacturing Center in Ohio, where the NSX is also built. Why you'd want a hand-assembled MDX, I don't know, but Acura loves to talk about the connection between the hybrid system in the MDX and the NSX. So maybe they're trying to strengthen that marketing connection
at first
there.
They didn't, because everyone, the MDX came out way before, and everyone was just like, "Oh, well, the NSX is just like the MDX," and they're like, "No, it's totally different." But now all of a sudden, it's the same thing.
I'm seeing a theme here. It looks like there's a lot of cars that are long in the tooth that are getting new versions in New York.
A lot
so
of special editions.
2020 or Audi R8. The 911 Speedster is actually the 991 version, right? It's
Is it really?
I
Say that.
I'm going to
You ask
drive it
good
next
questions.
week. I'll let you know.
Get the
Stay tuned on that
I'm
one.
not totally sure it was on the. I could be wrong, but I thought it was still in the 991
If it's officially
platform.
a 19, then yeah, because the new one is
Right.
20.
I thought for months they've been talking about this on the 991, and then you got the looks like the Challenger had a Stars and Stripes
Yes.
edition,
Yes.
which is just
Very-
another.
Make America Great edition? Or what
Yeah,
was
It was basically a flag on the fender.
nice.
And
a
it comes in
little star
like-
on the headrest and
comes in like camo green
America.
battleship gray. Yeah.
and Dodge.
And I'm all about honoring our troops who serve us, and that's great. It wasn't anything special beyond the trim package. So,
yeah.
but you know,
What about this
They're
one
very
here
popular
that
with the troops.
I'm not going to try to pronounce?
the Mullen Shantu K50,
That's awesome. What is that?
electric hypercar,
Right. Whether you say Chianti or
the
Chianti.
Keontae Reeves edition.
Yeah, it was a hypercar that sort of came out of nowhere. I think it's like I went to the press thing at the auto show and there's all these people crowd around it, so it's kind of hard to hear, but the way they made it sound, it's like it's an American company but it's built in China, and I think it uses an existing Chinese design,
It wasn't
but
like
the
a
battery and
supercar,
electric
it's 400 horsepower, so it's not like a barn burner.
no.
I went to the unveiling of the Pininfarina Battista with 1900 electric horsepower.
That's getting
that's getting up there, man.
Yes.
Careful though, because
That-
I've gotten
that I
so
would miss
much
dinner
crap
for.
about
That's a
calling
hyper,
cars
right?
supercars and hypercars.
Hypercars, yeah.
So, but the Mullen thing was kind of odd. I'll be impressed if they build it. They made a lot of big promises.
It was parked out in the lobby in one of the cheap spaces. So
Yeah, speaking of being surprised if they build it, I feel like I've seen a CX-5 with a diesel engine like at 3 different auto shows, and they've yet to actually bring it. Is this anything different, or is it?
They said
definitely
they're
coming?
finally going to do it.
they're going to do it.
Yeah, they said that at the other auto shows, though. I'm just curious.
One thing that's not on the list here that I have to just give a shout out to, they had an SUV in the lobby where, like Dave said, that's the cheap spots for automakers. It was called the Carlman King. It's like built on
armored.
It's like built on a Ford F-350 chassis. It looks like
An armored milk van.
right. It was so big and so ugly, and the pamphlet was like written in like broken English. It just said "World's most expensive SUV, most exclusive SUV." And
I want to see Rambo pop out of the top of it.
you're right. It looked like something you'd see like in a Fast and Furious movie, like a prop car that gets blown up. So that was kind of cool. But
Sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah.
Anything else before we move on? Any last
Mercedes showed at least 30 new cars.
As they
GLS, GLC, GLC Coupe, EQC Edition 1886,
CLA.
CLA,
A35, I think I saw.
AMG.
So if those numbers
Whatever
let
they
us
have
mean
left over
anything,
to
I'm
do
sure
the
like
auto show.
three people probably understood what we were saying.
But that's their
AMG,
strategy
add a number.
at every auto show, right? They bring like 40 different new editions
They
of
have a lot
everything.
of stuff, and they build a lot of versions of every car they build. So
I'm curious how much they spend at an auto show, or all the auto shows combined. 'cause
a lot
they're-
of manufacturers are skipping auto shows. They don't have anything to show. Why spend however many $1,000 per square foot for a display and
Especially when you can just put it out on the internet
Put it-
2 weeks before.
put it on the
right?
internet for free and put the money for more advertising or something? I don't know.
All right. Well, I guess the show's still going on as we record this. Not sure how much longer that would be the case. But
Yeah, it's for
get up there while you
through this
can.
weekend, probably.
Yeah. Moving on to something we've actually driven. That would be the 2020 Kia Telluride.
Which I have not driven. So.
All right. Well, Greg just got
Hope
back
you
from
get a chance to.
driving it at the track.
I quite literally got back from driving it today, to and from the track and at the track. It's certainly a statement-making vehicle, I think, for Kia. We were in the top trim level, so pricing here looks like around 31 to 32,000, up to 43, but ours was around the 47 to 48. But we're talking Harman Kardon sound system, 20-inch wheels, beautiful leather seats. It actually is a really nicely presented interior. It's comfortable. I'm not going to put it on the level of German luxury SUVs or anything like that, but it's certainly better than anything we've had from Kia or Hyundai, for that matter.
Is it based on the Palisade? Is that the?
I believe so. I mean,
to some extent,
more or less, it's based on the Sorento.
Yeah.
It comes off the same assembly line down in Georgia as the Sorento does. So it's just a stretched 8-passenger vehicle, which they haven't had before. Big, as Greg mentioned.
Big, plenty of space. Ours has second-row captain's chairs.
It's like decent mileage too. So
Yeah. Just nice touches all around. Just something weird to me was I was trying to change the song on Apple CarPlay, and I'm pushing the button up on the steering wheel, which is universally how you go to the next song. But this song kept playing over and over again, which I found was because I was going backwards instead of forwards. So to go to the next song, not that anybody really cares except me, but you have to push down on the button.
Yeah, well, we drive all these cars and never get used to one of them.
Yeah, so
I guess if you buy it, you'll get used to it. And then
another cool thing is every car has cameras all around. This one has, I would assume on the side view mirrors when you put on your turn signal, instead of like Honda system, which I think they might be abandoning, a image of the profile of the car will come up in the center of the gauge cluster, which is better than in the actual center screen like Honda had. It's not a feature that I would use all the time, but it's kind of comforting to have it down there. Maybe you catch something you wouldn't normally see just one time and it saves you from an accident. So
yeah, sure.
Lots of cool features, but again, it is pushing $50,000, but I'll say it's probably a good value at 50 or under $50,000.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to drive it much, but I was inside of it. Found it interesting. It's got almost the same exact grab handles on the center console the Mercedes GLE.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. But if you remember the Kia Borrego, that was their previous big SUV, which was only around for a couple of years because it came out.
But they were nice.
Yeah, it was like super nice. But that was also a full frame rig. This is still a crossover. But it came out when gas was $4 a gallon and it only lasted a couple of years. So.
Yeah, horrible
Hopefully
timing.
They had better
good design
luck this time. Yeah.
They had it at the auto show, and I took some time to sit in it, look at it, and sort of explore it on the floor. And if you were gonna wanted the stuff you could get in a large Lincoln or Cadillac, but didn't want to spend the money, this could be a great alternative for that. And I'm amazed. I follow Kia on Twitter, and the number of people who've tweeted them about the Telluride, of all things. Like, they're like, not the Stinger, not the other like hotkey. They're always like, man, can't wait to get a Telluride. I've never seen people get so excited about a Kia SUV before.
Well, they've been advertising the heck out of it, and it's an SUV. That's all people care about anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to see what a low end, like $33,000 one would be like, because again, this one seems really nice, but as far as I can tell, I mean, I think it will be pretty successly.
Yeah. Tahoe sized, just to give you a comparison.
Yeah,
really.
5,000 pounds towing, I believe.
Yeah, no V8, which may be a downer to some.
Did you miss it?
Yeah, speaking of which, I drove it at the track, and no, I mean, it's not fast, it's not slow. It's a little bit lacking in torque right off the line, but it like hits a spot right at the top of the tack where power just pours on, and it gets up out of the way and sounds okay, but not so loud inside that it's detracting from the nice premium environment.
Cool.
All right, well, look for that coming up real soon on MotorWeek. And moving on to our viewer question. This is an interesting one from Amy in Pennsylvania. She says, my husband and I are shopping for a new car or small SUV to replace our 09 Forester, and he hates touchscreens. What is the lowest tech new vehicle you can buy today? Anybody have any idea?
Unfortunately, screens are part of cars standard because backup cameras are standard in all cars. It's a rule.
I looked up the cheapest car you can buy. I think it's still the Mitsubishi Mirage for $14,000.
Right.
And even that has a 7-inch full color touchscreen. It looks nice.
I looked up the same thing as you. That's funny because when I put the podcast together, I'm like, is there any car without a screen? And yeah, for a few years, the Mirage had a thing where the backup camera was in the mirror. They put a tiny little 2-inch screen in the rearview mirror. But even now,
but are they all touchscreens?
Well, I think at this point you're trying to get into something. Well, first I would use like the center control thing if you could find one like a Mazda or a few other brands
versus a touchscreen.
Yeah. And I'm actually thinking now that that might be a touchscreen. A Grand Cherokee that I was in recently.
I was thinking the base Chrysler stuff, like the Renegade. It has a really tiny screen. I think it is still a touchscreen, but it's really small.
What about that?
That Ram 15 or Ram 2500 we had with the world's
not that it applies
smallest
here,
touchscreen.
But I think exactly that's exactly.
But
what we
that
were
same
thinking.
setup, I think, is like in the base Renegade and Compass, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right. It's like the cheapest Uconnect
Yeah.
To
system.
replace your Forester nicely, perhaps.
Yeah.
Crossover from
Cherokee, Compass, Grand Cherokee. Maybe.
Otherwise, you're just going to have to embrace the technology, man. Don't be afraid of it.
Well, and try and get
It's
one.
coming from Brian Robinson.
Yeah, really.
Mr. Flip Phone.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I would say the biggest thing is find which one is the easiest to use because they're not bad once you get used to it. It's just that find the one that, take the time during your testing and going to
Amy,
dealerships.
You're in
and stuff.
Pennsylvania, drive to New York. The auto show's going on this week.
There you go.
Sit in all the cars.
Road trip.
Yeah. Put on a party, and maybe Joe will stop by looking for some hors d'oeuvres.
Ask
Yep.
me questions.
Is there anyone that has a rant and or a rave today before we wrap this up?
Well, originally I was going to rant about the people who get the aftermarket Jeep Wrangler grills that make them look like they have angry eyes.
Oh yeah.
But
What kept you from ranting about that?
well, I wanted to give a brief rave just because this is my last podcast.
Oh,
I'll stop it.
It ain't so.
Segue there.
What's going on?
I was gonna say, I'm taking position on the program here at Maryland Public Television called Maryland Farm and Harvest.
TMI.
And so I'm leaving MotorWeek behind, sadly, but I'll just be down the hall. But I just want to say how much I liked doing the podcast with all you guys and working with you guys. I don't want to be too sentimental,
You're
but
going to make me cry right now.
it's been a lot of fun, and I'll definitely miss it. So
well,
Thanks
we
for
appreciate you being the podcast producer, which I will now be doing. Which will make all the podcasts just 20 minutes of me ranting about stuff. So, hope you're into that.
I've got an observation, perhaps. I've never been a fan of the push-button start, but I just drove our 4Runner recently, our test car, and it had a key.
Without it, right?
Get out.
I kept pushing the dash trying to find a button with the key in my hand. So, they're
How's the brother
ubiquitous
looking
now,
for
the
a run?
push buttons. So a key is an oddity, a rarity,
You could hurt your wrist that way.
right?
Workman's comp.
Workman's comp, yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up on that note. I want to thank our audio engineer, Jim Bigwood, and, of course, podcast creator Bob Mixter, longtime producer Joe Lago.
thank you.
So long,
And,
Joe.
Just
Happy trail.
be sure to check us out on TV and all the internet spots. And thanks for tuning in.
You've been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.